In this video, we are going to talk about decimal degrees and degrees, minutes, seconds, which is sometimes abbreviated into DMS. So let's say you have this angle right here and you want to measure it. This looks to be about 60 degrees, and the measurement that I have for it is 62.3 degrees. So this measurement right here, this is decimal degrees. And typically this is what we work in nowadays, now that calculators are in such common use. But before calculators were so common, the degrees were sometimes reported as degrees, minutes, seconds. So rather than writing 62.3 degrees, you would write 62 degrees and 18 minutes. And we're going to look at how to interconvert between decimal degrees and degrees, minutes, seconds. And something you can think about is this is just like hours, minutes, seconds, except instead of hours, we're talking about degrees. So you could say, oh, I worked 62.3 hours this week. But generally, if you wanted to report it that precisely, you wouldn't say 62.3 hours. You'd say, well, how many hours did you work? 62. And then you worked a little bit more than 62 hours, but not quite 63 hours. So you report that in minutes. So you work 62 hours, 18 minutes. So just keep that in mind, that the minutes and seconds, you can think of it as the minutes and seconds from hours. It's the same system. Okay, so let's look at how to go. Let's go this way first. Let's go from degrees, minutes, seconds into decimal degrees. So what you want to do is you want to take your minutes and you want to convert them back into degrees. So we have to find a conversion factor. How many minutes for 1 degree? And fortunately, it's the same thing as with hours, minutes, seconds. So we know that there are 60 minutes in 1 hour. Well, there's 60 minutes in 1 degree. When you do 18 times 1 divided by 60, you get 0.3. And the minutes goes away, and you're left with degrees. Then what you do is you add that to the number of degrees that you had. So you have 62 degrees. We converted the 18 minutes into 0.3 degrees. We add those together and get 62.3 degrees. Let's go ahead and do a second example. Let's say we have this angle here, and we're told that it is 10 degrees, 30 minutes, and 36 seconds. So it's an angle that's more than 10 degrees, but not quite 11 degrees, so we're reporting the minutes and seconds. This is DMS, degrees, minutes, seconds, and we want to go into decimal degrees. All right, so we know it's going to be 10 degrees, but we need to add in the 30 minutes. So we're going to convert minutes into degrees. And that conversion factor is 60 minutes for 1 degree. 30 times 1 divided by 60 is 0.5. So we have 10 degrees plus 0.5 degrees. And then we have to take into account the seconds we're given. So we can go from seconds all the way to degrees in one step, or you can go from seconds to minutes. There's 60 seconds in a minute. And then we can go from minutes, there's 60 minutes in 1 degree. So you're taking 36 and you're dividing it by 60, and then you are dividing it by 60 again. And when you do that calculation, you end up with 0.01 degrees. You could have gone right from seconds to degrees by realizing that 60 times 60 is 3,600. So there's 3,600 seconds in 1 degree. And you would have got to the same place. All right, so now we're going to add that to our 10 plus 0.5. And we end up with an angle of 10.51 degrees. Oops, let's go back to that. So whenever you're going from DMS, degrees, minutes, seconds, to decimal degrees, essentially what you're doing, this is just sort of the shortcut of what you're doing, is you're adding these three numbers together. But this number you're going to divide by 60 first. And then this number you're going to be dividing by 3,600. And those are the two conversion factors. This conversion factor is right here. And this conversion factor, if you're doing it in 2 steps, is right here. And if you're doing it in 1 step, it's right here. So let's try a few more examples, but now what we're going to do is we're going to start with decimal degrees, and then we're going to go into degrees, minutes, seconds. So here's our first example. We have 20.25 degrees, and we want to report that as degrees, minutes, seconds. So the degrees portion is easy. You just look at the whole number. Well, we have 20 degrees. And then what do we have left over? Well, we have 0.25 degrees left over. And what you're going to do with that 0.25 degrees is you're going to convert it into minutes. And we know there's 60 minutes in 1 degree. 0.25 times 60 is 15. So there are 15 minutes in 0.25 of a degree. So our answer would be 20 degrees, 15 minutes. And you'll notice there was no seconds in this one. That's okay. You don't always have to have a seconds here. And in our first problem, we actually didn't have seconds either. For our final angle, let's say it is 99.905 degrees. And we want to convert this into DMS. So degrees is 99. And then we take what's left over, 0.905, and we convert that into minutes. So we multiply by 60. And when we do that, we get 54.3 minutes. So this is a situation we haven't seen yet where you have a decimal in your minutes. So you'll either be asked to do one of two things. You could be asked to report degrees, minutes, seconds rounded to the nearest minute. So essentially you're being asked to report degrees and minutes. If that was the case, you would look at this number and say, okay, this is less than 5, so I'm going to keep this number the same. I'm not going to round this up. So it would be 54 minutes. And that would be your answer if you were asked to round to the nearest minute. But we are going to go all the way into seconds. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the whole number component and put that up for the minutes. So now our angle is 99 degrees and 54 minutes. And we're going to take the decimal portion, so 0.3 minutes, and we're going to convert that into seconds. When you do 0.3 times 60, you get 18. And that's an integer. And if it wasn't, you would just round to get to the nearest integer number at this point. So this is our final answer. 99.905 degrees in DMS is 99 degrees, 54 minutes, 18 seconds.